Pushed by the development of the means of transportation and communication, the contact between differentiated culture and peoples takes anti-humanist features through the powers, totalitarianism, world wars, Holocaust, but also produce a reciprocal influence between the humanist tendencies. The strong crisis in the system of beliefs set in the previous age, the rationalism, is expressed by Nietzsche's statement, "God is dead." This crisis also triggers a strong ferment and innovation in many different fields. New theories arise in science with Einstein, Planck, Bohr, Heisenberg and others. In philosophy, the new ideas about phenomenology with Husserl and about the historical process related to generational dynamics with Ortega. In psychology, with Jung and Freud. In spirituality, with new branches such as the Theosophy and others. A strong contribution to nonviolence at the end of 19th centuries is given by Tolstoy's works that will deeply influence the movements that will develop through the following years. At the beginning of the century, social activism based on the pacifist approach contains in the United States of America in the anti-segregationist fights, Du Bois, Washington, Trotters, on the wave of the ideals that led to the abolishment of slavery. The armed social activism continues its development since rationalism under the ideology of Marxism. For example, the Mexican and Russian revolutions during the 10s. As an alternative to the socialist visions, Christian humanism is emerging, thanks to Maritain and Pope Leone XIII, who synthesize a social Christian model. Mystic research, not necessarily linked to a strong social activism, is developed in India between the end of 18th centuries and the beginning of 19th centuries by Aurobindo, Vivekananda, Tagore, Yogananda, Meher Baba and many more. Oriental philosophies increased their influence in the Occident as seen in the Theosophy and later in psychological theories, Jung, Gurdjieff, Steiner. These type of researchers tend to new synthesis through the study, the development and the recovering of ancient knowledge and practices. Beyond the marked differences between the principal tendencies, violent or non-violent social activism and mystic research, another trend arises and combines non-violence and a strong religious feeling. The main example is given by Gandhi, influenced by Tolstoy, Thoreau, the utopian socialism of Fourier, and by other remarkable movements in India, Vivekananda, Tagore. Indian independence of 1947, achieved under Gandhi's guide, inspires many other movements all over the world. Capitini, Gregg, Nkrumah, Martin Luther King, Mandela. After World War II, all these currents, differentiated for culture and sensitivity, show two main tendencies. One is launched towards the study of mystic traditions and the search for meaning. For example, Watts, Krishnamurti, Mircea Eliade, Suzuki. And the other is oriented to the fight for social justice, pushed by the theories of the Frankfurt School with an update of the Marxist ideas and the Sartrean existentialism. Concrete manifestations of this trend have a pacific side and a violent side, as in Mao's and Castro revolution and in Guevara's guerrilla. While technological developments facilitate the communications, also humanist tendencies get in contact, especially during the strong youth protest in 1968. Critical components of the generation born between 1935 and 1947 try a global revolution in which the different tendencies, armed activism, mysticism, politics, etc., lose their strength and split into different branches. Social activism ends up in pacifism, ecology, armed fight, while the mystic research results in Orientalism and drugs abuse. These critical tendencies are not dominant in the historical process. Elements of the same generation access to power going in the opposite or very different direction, neoliberalism and capitalism, or socialism and social democracies. Some progressive minorities tend to a further synthesis between the search of meaning and social activism through nonviolence methodology. Among these, the silhouists are able to overcome the drifting of the other movements during the 70s, aiming for a change in the mental form of the human being and simultaneous psychological and social development. Other minorities linger on in the social nonviolent activism and add on new experiences to the historical Gandhism. Solidarność in Poland in 1979, San Suu Kyi in Myanmar in 80s, the end of apartheid with Mandela in South Africa in 90s, the movements of Tiananmen in 1989, the Chinese Falun Dafa. During the 70s, an important synthesis of the past experiences is done, and Sharp is an example, and will influence following movements that will lead to the colored revolution of the 2000s. The deep innovations in the scientific field, in the subatomic physics, in the genetic, and in the new conception that arise in these years have significant influence upon the search of meaning and concern the interpretation of reality itself, dealing with fields that previously belonged to the mystic. Even if these tendencies are not up to influence the common process on a wide scale, their development marks an evolutive direction.